Well, one of the first things I notice is how maybe more natural this experience has been so far versus some of my other hikes into history. And it might be that because a 19th century frontiersman isn't really gearing up to go to war, everything he's carrying is essentially meant to ensure his own survival in the wilderness. Basically to get from point A to point B. So you're not talking about specialist equipment so much as 19th century variations on basically what we deal with every day. How we get to work. What do we eat for lunch? What do we eat for dinner? How do we go to sleep? Things that we all grapple with every day to one extent or another. And that's really all I'm carrying with me right now. Nothing that's too shocking or too alien or too foreign to our day-to-day experience. The elephant in the room is the raccoon on top of my head. Thank you, Davy Crockett. Or rather, thank you, 1950s TV version of Davy Crockett. So, the coonskin cap is just one of those things that is kind of synonymous with the idea of the frontiersman. And as I look through going, well, what's the benefit of a coonskin cap? You don't really find just a whole lot of people writing about why they wear these things. They're warm. They're originally Native American in origin. So it's easy to see the early frontiersmen kind of copying it from indigenous tribes. At the same time, I can't help but wonder, how does it do in the rain? I wonder, well, one of the negatives is there's no brim. There's nothing to keep the sun out of my eyes. But, on the flip side, it is warm. I've seen some suggestion that the coonskin cap was prized because it was a bit of camouflage, and I don't know how true that might be. So as a frontiersman, I'm carrying my livelihood with me. What I mean by that is I need some way of feeding myself when supplies run out. And the supplies are what I can carry on my body. So that would be something like this. This is a flintlock rifle. So called because there's a piece of flint right here that would strike this plate, create a spark. It would ignite gunpowder in the pan, which would then ignite gunpowder in the barrel, which would shoot out the bullet. This particular flintlock is called a Baker rifle. It was used by the British during the Napoleonic Wars, and I'm just feeling that my frontiersman might have been an ex-British soldier who just got his fill of warfare during the Napoleonic battles and has come to America with his trusty rifle to make a new start. Of course, this isn't exactly the easiest thing to load. A frontiersman would have had to carry what was called a possibles bag, which is this leather bag I have around my waist, and it would have contained everything you need to not only load this rifle but maintain it and clean it. Would have contained things like a shot pouch, and the shot pouch has the various shots that would fit into this rifle. And depending upon the rifle, the degree of precision and uniformity of the shot would have changed. For instance, a Baker rifle is actually kind of a highly precise instrument. It needs very precise shot. Otherwise, it just won't fit in the barrel and it won't fly true. So I've got everything I might need in my possibles bag here to essentially maintain this Baker rifle. So almost as synonymous as the coonskin cap and our image of a frontiersman is this, the Bowie knife. Now what's odd is actually historians don't know what a Bowie knife looked like. We really don't. The Bowie knife was named for James Bowie, who becomes famous, of course, not only for being a bit of an adventurer and a duelist, but also for dying at the Alamo as a leader in the Texas Rebellion. Now, James Bowie was famous for fighting one particular duel with what was described as essentially a large butcher knife that he then carried with him afterwards. And as far as the story goes, a family blacksmith produced something a little bit more elegant than just a butcher knife that he carried after him, and it was called a Bowie knife. Now, what that original Bowie knife looked like, we don't know. Most of them look something similar to this, a blade profile very similar to this, and it can be described in one word. It's big. It's big. And also, as a frontiersman, there's a lot of uses for this. Self-defense, certainly. Self-defense by intimidation, absolutely. But also, just like almost any large knife or bladed weapon throughout time, it can, in a pinch, serve as a shovel or an entrenching tool. So it's really kind of a handy dandy thing to have at my belt. You know, maybe some of the familiarity or ease with which this hike is going is simply due to you're not having to pretend all that much, because I'm walking through the Texas backwoods. And what am I dressed as if not David Crockett coming down from Tennessee to join the Texas Revolution in 1836? That's what it feels like. So this is a case where the environment and the gear and everything is really not too far off from what it would have been, right down to the heat. There is essentially a pouch on my back. It's slung across my back, and my blanket is rolled over it. A very simple form of a backpack, where I've put everything I might need day to day, but not need immediately, and it's slung across my back, along with a coffee pot and tinware and things I might need, say, moving through the wilderness. And again, having it slung across my back is a lot more comfortable than having it kind of slung across both shoulders, where the straps are like digging into my shoulders like they did when I was a Civil War soldier. I wanted to take a moment to lay out for you everything that is in that shoulder roll that I was talking about. And you see, it's just kind of a variety of things. It's a variety of things that I won't need during the day, but as I camp for the night, I settle in. It's not enough to really provide me a lot of comfort, but it's enough to get me through, whether it's something diversionary like just a pair of playing cards or a deck of playing cards, or something just hygienic: soap, tooth powder, shaving cream, candles, things of that nature. Something that all of my hikes have had in common is this idea that almost every culture has some form of Gatorade, some form of super liquid that is meant to replace electrolytes. And to be honest, frontiersmen in early 19th century America are no different. They had Switchel, which tastes remarkably like the other Gatorade substitutes I've done over the eras. Switchel is kind of based in molasses, and molasses and vinegar, and essentially very much the same ingredients as Crusader, Elixir of Jerusalem, or any of the various Gatorade substitutes. But really, it's the molasses that's kind of unique and gives it a nice sweet profile, and it grows on you. It really does. We haven't talked about food yet. So as a frontiersman, I'm limited to what I can really carry. So you're trying to shoot small game that you can essentially eat in one sitting. What you're carrying with you food-wise has to be something that's essentially it's portable, it's lightweight, it's resistant to spoilage, like the standard jerked meat, just kind of this jerky type meat, which is this idea of just drying out the meat until most of the water content is gone, salting it very heavily, and you've got a very long-lasting, very calorie-filled food that is very portable. You say jerky, I will counter with pemmican. That's so interesting. So pemmican was meat and berry sometimes, and tallow, fat. And once you combine those, it really does kind of last forever. I think that this I'm having right here, even though it looks like a chocolate bar, I think it's through 2036 or something. So as I eat the pemmican, it's so weird because there's almost no flavor to it. And you expect, to be honest, I'm expecting kind of a fruit bar, protein bar type taste. But there's a mild flavor of meat, which makes sense. And kind of that beef tallow in the mouth just coats your entire mouth. And yeah, much prefer the jerky to the pemmican. The pemmican, however, just would last longer. But man, I need some of that switchel. Of course, if we're talking about food, we can't forget our old friend, hardtack. Really doesn't matter. Roman times, 1,000 years later, 2,000, won't matter. Some form of flour and water baked hard is going to be the most portable and dare I say edible form of sustenance. It's always hardtack. A dubious honor I have every hike, as I know there's gonna be some form of hardtack. It really doesn't matter. There's gonna be some of this. Something I've not included in past hikes, books. I just feel that, especially when you deal with American frontiersmen, who they are, what education they have, you really don't know. I mentioned earlier that I thought I might be a veteran of Napoleonic Wars coming over from Britain or Ireland. So the idea that I might want a book to fill the time between the setting of the sun and rising the next morning, that's not too far-fetched when you consider, what am I dressed up as? If you didn't know, you'd be like, well, it's Davy Crockett, who is a multi-term congressman and was educated. The garment I'm wearing is most often called a hunting shirt. Could be of linen, very rarely of cotton or wool, a lot of times of buckskin. And it could be dyed different colors, green, brown, to kind of serve as camouflage. Mine is this kind of just natural color of bone. And it can be worn as a coat or as a shirt. This particular one kind of wraps around and I secure it with a belt. This, more so than serving as a soldier on the march, there's a sense of possibilities here. A sense of, I could go that way, I could go that way. There's a sense of frontiers and horizons, and that I can make a go of it with what I have on. I'm not dependent on anyone. Although I'm sure that there are actual modern day frontiersmen who have watched this video and are chuckling now, going, I think he'd probably be dead within a week, and they're probably right. But I know, I feel closer to this particular character I'm immersing myself in. And maybe it's because it's very possible that someone like this character would have been walking through these exact woods, 150, 200 years ago. And you can feel it. You really can. This is Heath the History Guy, signing off. Until next time, you're ready to walk a mile with me in someone else's shoes.